The castle stood on the edge of a cliff, sharp stones beneath its foundation and the wind constantly whipping its tall towers. Mist curled around the battlements like silent spirits, and the moon cast a silver glow over the ancient stones. Inside, the corridors were quiet, but a tension lingered, heavier than the usual night calm. The Alpha King moved silently through the halls, his boots making no sound against the cold stone. He felt it first in the wolf that lived in his chest, the pulse of instinct, the silent tug of destiny. Something was wrong, something unusual. His beta had been restless all day, pacing the halls like a caged animal, whispering about threats and spies. But it was not the beta who drew the alpha's attention now. It was a scent soft, strange, and impossible to ignore. His wolf growled low in his chest, and the alpha's hand brushed against the hilt of his sword as he followed the invisible trail. It led him to the beta's private chamber. The door was slightly ajar, the lock broken. Inside, dim candlelight flickered across the walls, illuminating chains that hung from the floor and ceiling. And there, in the center of the room, was a woman. Her wrists were bound in heavy iron cuffs, her arms stretched painfully above her head. Her hair, dark and tangled, fell across her face, partially hiding eyes that seemed too alive for a prisoner. She was small, but there was a fierceness in her gaze that made the alpha stop in his tracks. The scent that had called him here was stronger now, human, yes, but something more, something wild, something ancient. The wolf in his chest lifted its head, a low, guttural sound escaping from deep within. The alpha froze. He had never heard it before. His wolf, always a shadow of his own will, always obedient, bowed its head in recognition. It was the first time it had ever done so. His fated mate. The woman looked up then, eyes wide. Her chest heaved, her breathing shallow. She had been captured, yet her expression was not one of fear alone. It was suspicion, anger, and a strange spark of hope all mixed together. Who are you?" she asked, voice trembling. "I am the Alpha," he said, his voice low and steady, carrying authority like a living thing. "And you belong to no one who chained you here." She flinched at the words, as if the chains themselves burned her skin. The Alpha stepped closer, and the wolf in his chest growled again, low and protective. "I do not punish. I protect, and I do not tolerate lies. Tell me why you are here." She swallowed hard, her eyes flicking to the shadows of the room. "I do not know. I was taken. I woke in this room. They said you would be powerful, that I was part of something bigger. I do not understand." He studied her carefully. There was magic in her. He could sense it. Not the kind that could light candles or move objects, something older, deeper, tied to life and blood, to wolves and destiny. The chains had a faint glow, almost imperceptible, but enough that he could feel a shiver of unease. She was marked. Her past, whoever had touched her, had left a scar on more than just her body. His wolf stirred, restless. It pressed against his mind, nudging him forward. The scent, the aura it called to him as no human ever had. Fated, mate. That word echoed through him like a promise and a warning. He had dreamed of this, never in full clarity, only in shadows and half-formed visions. Now, it stood before him, chained and terrified, yet unbroken. He reached out, slow, deliberate, and brushed a strand of hair from her face. Her eyes met his, wide and wary. "Do not touch me," she whispered, voice shaky. I cannot trust anyone here." "I am not anyone," he replied. "I am your Alpha, and my wolf knows what my heart must choose." The chains rattled as he stepped closer. He drew a small dagger from his belt, its silver blade catching the candlelight. The metal was old, enchanted, strong enough to break the bindings without harming her. He worked carefully, feeling the tension in his hands, the electricity in the air. When the chains fell to the floor with a soft clang, she instinctively flinched back. "You are free," he said softly. "Not because I desire it, not because my wolf demands it, but because it is your right." 17. For a moment, she said nothing. Then, trembling, she sank to the floor. Her gaze flicked to him, to the wolf that shimmered in the corner of the room, visible only to those who were fated to see it. "Why? Why do you care?" The alpha hesitated. "Because my wolf recognizes you. Because you are not just a woman. You are part of me, part of a destiny I did not fully understand until now." Her breath hitched. She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust, but fear was thick in her chest. "I am no one," she whispered. "I am just a woman. A human." "Humans," he said, a faint shadow of humor in his voice. "No. You are more than that. More than I ever imagined." The night deepened around them. Shadows flickered against the walls, and the castle seemed to hold its breath. Outside, wolves howled in the distance, their voices rising like a chorus that sang of fate and danger. She shivered, not just from cold, but from something deeper, a pulse in her chest that echoed his own. The alpha moved closer, but still kept a careful distance. He could feel the power in her, raw and uncontrolled. If unleashed, it could destroy or protect, heal or harm. But he sensed another truth. She feared herself as much as she feared the world. And yet, the wolf in him, the shadow of all the alphas before him, whispered one word, over and over. "Mate. I will protect you," he said finally. "Not because I must, but because it is right. But you must trust me." She did not answer. She could not. Her heart beat too fast, her mind whirling with questions. Who was she? Really? Why did the wolf in him bow to her? And what did it mean that her chains had a faint light when the moon touched them? The room was silent except for the distant wind. Then, slowly, the light on her chains flared, brighter than before. The candles flickered, casting dancing shadows on the walls. The floor trembled beneath them. The alpha's eyes widened. This was no ordinary chain, no ordinary magic. It had been waiting, patient, for this moment. A low growl escaped from the wolf in his chest. Not his own voice, but something older, darker, something that belonged to the long line of alphas before him. It warned him, yes, but also guided him. The chains were not just a trap. They were a key one that could unlock power, danger, or destiny. The woman gasped as the chain's glow expanded. She tried to move, but the room itself seemed to hold her in place. A shadow emerged from the candlelight, pale and spectral, a wolf, not flesh, but spirit. With eyes like molten silver. Its snarl was not directed at her, but at him. The alpha drew himself up, placing himself between her and the apparition. The wolf in his chest roared, a sound that shook the walls. "Stay behind me," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "Whatever comes, it will answer to me first." The spectral wolf circled, growling, sniffing, testing him. Then, with a sudden motion, it paused, tilted its head, and vanished into thin air. The chains dimmed, the trembling stopped, and the room returned to silence. The woman sank to the floor, exhausted, but her eyes were wide with awe. What was that?" she whispered. The alpha helped her to her feet, steadying her. "A warning," he said, "and a promise. You are no ordinary woman, and I am no ordinary man. Our fates are bound, whether we understand them or not. She looked at him, her fear still there, but something else creeping in: curiosity, awe, and perhaps the faintest spark of trust. The chains were gone, but something older, deeper, had taken their place. A bond, unseen yet unbreakable, had formed. And outside, beyond the castle walls, the wolves howled again. Not in warning, not in fear, but in recognition. A fated mate had returned, and the Alpha King had found her. The morning mist clung to the castle walls, curling through the towers and halls like pale fingers. The Alpha King stood on the balcony, his gaze fixed on the forest below. Wolves moved silently among the trees, their forms flickering between shadow and light. He could feel the pull of the woman he had found, his fated mate still fresh in his mind. Her presence had shaken him in ways he had not expected. The wolf in him, usually so disciplined and controlled, throbbed with anticipation and unease. Inside, the woman stirred in the guest room the Alpha had arranged for her. It was simple, with stone walls and a single bed, but warm and safe. She sat on the edge of the mattress, her wrists free but still marked faintly with the sigil of her chains. She traced the glowing mark with her fingers, as if trying to understand its meaning. Her mind raced with questions. Who was she? Why had fate drawn her here? And what did it mean that the Alpha's wolf had recognized her? A knock at the door made her start. She rose quickly, her instincts sharp, but relaxed slightly when the Alpha's voice called through. "You may come in," he said, low and steady. He entered slowly, hands at his sides, eyes careful. He did not want to frighten her further. She studied him, noticing the way his presence filled the room, the silent strength he carried. There was danger in him, yes, but also protection. "I wanted to ensure you slept safely," he said, his voice soft but firm. "There are those in the castle, and outside it, who may wish to harm you. You are not fully safe yet. O town." She nodded, though her heart thumped wildly. I still do not understand why you protect me. I am not of your world." "No," he said. "But fate does not always follow the rules of the world. You were brought here for a reason, even if you do not yet see it. And my wolf knows your place beside me." Her eyes widened. "Your wolf? It recognized me?" "Yes," he replied. "It has never done that before. It does not make mistakes." She felt a shiver run through her. A part of her wanted to run, to escape from this strange destiny. But another part, a deeper, unspoken part, longed to stay. There was something in him that called to her, something she could not deny. For days, he taught her the ways of the pack. He showed her how the wolves communicated, how they moved through the forests, and how the bonds between them were both power and responsibility. She was quick to learn, her mind sharp, her senses heightened by the strange magic that lingered within her. Yet, as the days passed, she began to feel the stirrings of something she could not control. At night, when the moon was high, she felt power rise in her chest, a warmth that was both frightening and thrilling. Shadows in the castle seemed to bend toward her, and whispers of wind carried voices she could not understand. The Alpha noticed it immediately. One night, he found her in the training yard, hands glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. Wolves circled around, uneasy, growling low in warning. "Stop," he commanded, his voice echoing across the stone walls. She turned to him, eyes wide, panic rising. "I cannot. It comes out on its own. I do not want to hurt anyone." He stepped forward, placing himself between her and the wolves. "You will not. I will not allow it. But you must trust me. You must let me guide you." Her chest heaved. I do not know if I can." "You can," he said, his hand brushing hers, careful deliberate. You are stronger than you know, and I will not let fear control you. Not now. Not ever. They stood like that, eyes locked, the air between them charged with something unspoken. Her heart beat in a rhythm that mirrored his own, fast and powerful, as if their fates were entwined beyond understanding. Days later, the castle was quiet again, but tension lingered. The beta, who had first discovered the woman, watched from the shadows, jealousy and suspicion twisting inside him. He did not trust her. He could feel the power she carried, could sense the pull the alpha had toward her, and it angered him. Yet he also knew she was dangerous not just to the pack, but to anyone who did not understand her. One evening, as the full moon rose high, the alpha led her to the forest. Wolves followed silently, their eyes glinting in the moonlight. The air was cool, crisp, and filled with the scent of pine and earth. He stopped at a small clearing. The moon, bathing it in silver. This is where the pack comes to honor the moon, he explained. Where we remember the alphas who came before us. Tonight, you will see your power, if you are ready. She shivered, fear and anticipation swirling inside her. I do not know if I am ready. You will be, he said. His hand brushed hers again, warm and grounding. I will be with you, always. The wolves formed a circle around them, their eyes reflecting the moonlight. The alpha began a low chant, his voice deep and commanding. The woman felt the energy around her pulse, and her own heartbeat quickened. Suddenly, her powers surged, bright and wild, lighting the clearing with a pale glow. Wolves barked and circled, both afraid and drawn to the light. She screamed as the energy shot from her hands, uncontrolled and powerful. The alpha leapt forward, catching her in his arms, shielding her from the wolves and the force of her own magic. Focus, he commanded, his voice strong, steady. You are not alone. Breathe. She did, trembling, her magic calming slowly as he guided her. When the light dimmed, she looked at him, wide-eyed, both frightened and amazed. You saved me, she whispered. I promised I would, he said, and I meant it. But you must learn to control this. Your power is not just a gift, it is a responsibility. And it may determine the fate of the pack and of this kingdom. Her eyes widened. The kingdom? Yes, he said. There are forces that would see you used, controlled, or destroyed. You are more important than you realize. As she looked at him, she realized the depth of the danger around her and the closeness of the bond they shared. His presence was commanding, yet protective. His eyes, though stern, held a warmth that she could not resist. Her heart ached with a longing she did not yet understand. For the man who had become her shield and her guide. They returned to the castle in silence, the tension between them unspoken but electric. The beta followed at a distance, watching and plotting, while the pack sensed the growing connection between alpha and mate. Rumors whispered through the halls, eyes followed them, and shadows seemed to move with a life of their own. That night, the woman could not sleep. She stared at the glowing mark on her wrist, tracing the sigil again. The chains were gone, but the mark pulsed faintly, as if alive. She sensed something watching her from the shadows, from the past, from something older than the castle itself. The alpha came to her door quietly. You are awake, he said. I cannot sleep, she admitted. The power, the wolves, the mark. It is all too much. He stepped closer. It is a lot to bear, but you do not have to bear it alone. Trust me, as I trust you. We will face this together. For a moment, they stood close, the air thick with unspoken feelings. She wanted to reach for him, wanted to feel the protection he offered, but she held back, uncertain and afraid. A sudden growl echoed through the halls. both of them tensed. Wolves, alert and wary, circled the castle. Then, from the shadows of the forest, a figure appeared, dark and powerful, eyes glowing faintly. Something ancient and angry, alive for centuries, had sensed the awakening of her power. The Alpha's hand went to his sword, but his eyes never left hers. "Stay behind me," he said, voice firm and unwavering. "Whatever comes, it will answer to me." The woman nodded, heart racing. Fear mixed with trust. Fear mixed with longing. She did not understand it fully yet, but she knew that this Alpha, this wolf, this destiny, was hers, as much as she was his. The figure in the shadows stepped closer, and the moonlight revealed a face, half hidden by a hood. The air crackled with dark energy, and the forest seemed to hold its breath. The Alpha's wolf growled low, warning him of danger unlike any they had faced. The woman felt a pulse in her chest, a flicker of power that surged in response to the stranger. Her magic responded instinctively, even as her mind screamed to stop. "Do not fear," the Alpha said, sensing her panic. "Whatever this is, we face it together." And in that moment, as shadows deepened and magic swirled around them, the bond between Alpha and mate burned brighter than any fear. They were linked, unbreakable, and the fate of the kingdom and of their hearts hung in the balance. Cliffhanger. The hooded figure stepped fully into the moonlight, revealing a sigil identical to the one on her wrist. "So, you have awakened," a low, commanding voice said. "It is time to fulfill your destiny." The moon hung high over the forest, silver light spilling across the trees and reflecting in the eyes of countless wolves. The castle, looming in the distance, seemed almost fragile against the night, as if it were merely a shadow of the wild forces gathering beyond its walls. The Alpha King stood at the edge of the clearing, sword in hand, his senses alert. Beside him, the woman his fated mate stood trembling but resolute. The glow of her sigil pulsed faintly on her wrist, as if alive, signaling that the destiny they could no longer avoid had arrived. The hooded figure from the forest stepped into the clearing, revealing an aura of power that was older than the castle itself. His eyes, glowing faintly like molten silver, locked onto the woman. "So, you have awakened," the stranger said, voice low and commanding. "It is time to fulfill your destiny." The woman's heart pounded. She had felt power stir within her, but now it surged violently, responding to the presence of the stranger. She stepped closer to the Alpha, instinctively seeking the shield of his presence. His hand rested on her shoulder, grounding her, reminding her that she was not alone. "What do you want from her?" the Alpha demanded, his voice echoing in the stillness of the forest. Wolves in the distance answered with low growls, circling closer, ready to protect. The stranger's gaze did not waver. "Her power is the key. It can heal, it can destroy, it can restore what was lost, or it can bring ruin. I am here to ensure it is used as fate demands." The woman swallowed hard. Her power, something she had feared and struggled to control, now felt alive, responding to a will outside of her own. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying voices that only she could hear, urging her to act, to awaken fully. Fear surged through her chest, but so did determination. She would not be used as a tool. "I am not your key," she said, voice firm despite trembling. "I choose my path. My power is mine, and I will not let you take it." The stranger tilted his head, studying her. Ah, the fire of independence. A dangerous, yet promising spark. He stepped forward, and the air thickened, heavy with magic. Shadows stretched unnaturally, twisting across the clearing, and the wolves' growls became more urgent. The Alpha moved closer, drawing his sword in a practiced sweep. "If you wish to harm her, you will face me first." "And my wolf," he said, his voice low. will answer, with me. The stranger smirked, an expression both cruel and amused. Very well. Let us see if your bond is as strong as you claim. The ground trembled slightly, and the shadows around the stranger twisted into shapes phantoms of long-dead wolves and ancient alphas, their eyes glowing with judgment. The woman's heart raced as her power reacted instinctively, the glow on her wrist intensifying. She raised her hands, unsure if she could control what was coming, but knowing she had to try. Focus, the alpha whispered. We are together. Trust in us. She closed her eyes, feeling the pull of her bond with him. It was stronger than fear, stronger than doubt. The warmth of his presence grounded her, and slowly, her magic began to respond to her own will. Light surged from her palms, filling the clearing with a soft, silver glow. The shadows recoiled, whispering and hissing as the energy grew. The stranger's smirk faltered. Impressive, he said, voice tight. But raw power alone does not make one capable. The alpha stepped forward, sword flashing in the moonlight. His wolf, a shadowy figure that had always been a part of him, emerged fully from the darkness, circling the stranger. The bond between alpha and mate pulsed visibly in the air, a force neither entirely physical nor magical, but something elemental, born of destiny. The woman felt the flow of power through her, the energy of her mate, and the whispers of the wolves blending into a chorus that guided her. She focused, shaping her power, controlling the light, and projecting it outward. The shadows shrieked, twisting, retreating, unable to resist the force of their combined will. The stranger stumbled, caught off guard by the harmony of their bond. This is impossible, he said, raising his hands to try to fight back. This is impossible. This is impossible. One. But the woman, strengthened by trust and purpose, channeled her energy not in destruction, but in purification. The shadows dissolved into silver mist, leaving only the clearing, the alpha, and her standing together. For a moment, silence fell. The wind whispered softly through the trees, carrying away the remnants of the dark force. The wolves circled, now calm, their eyes reflecting loyalty and recognition. The stranger, weakened and unarmed against the bond between alpha and mate, retreated into the shadows, disappearing as suddenly as he had appeared. The woman sank to her knees, exhausted but triumphant. The alpha knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. You did it, he said softly. You controlled your power. You chose your destiny. She looked at him, eyes wide with a mix of fear and awe. We did it, she corrected, voice trembling. Together. He nodded, his hand resting on her shoulder. Together, always. The forest seemed to breathe again, the tension lifted. Yet the memory of the danger lingered. She realized now that her power was a part of her. Yes, but it was the bond with him that made it stronger, that gave it purpose. Her fear of being used or controlled faded slightly, replaced by a new understanding of trust, strength, and love. Days passed after the encounter, and the castle slowly returned to its usual rhythm. The beta, once skeptical and jealous, observed quietly. He saw the bond between alpha and mate, saw the way they complemented each other, and slowly, suspicion turned into respect. The pack itself seemed calmer, the wolves recognizing not just the alpha's strength, but the woman's place beside him. The alpha spent time teaching her, guiding her in the ways of the pack, in the understanding of her powers, and in the balance between strength and compassion. She learned quickly, her natural instincts blending with the discipline he provided. And with each lesson, each shared moment, the bond between them deepened not just as alpha and mate, but as equals, bound by fate and choice alike. One evening, under the silver glow of the moon, they stood on the balcony overlooking the forest. Wolves howled softly in the distance, their voices a gentle chorus to the quiet night. The woman leaned slightly against the alpha, feeling the steady beat of his heart, the warmth of his presence, and the safety of his protection. "You saved me," she said softly, tracing her fingers along the faint sigil on her wrist. "And yet, I feel like I have saved myself, too." He turned to her, eyes reflecting the moonlight, and brushed a loose strand of hair from her face. "No," he said gently. "You saved yourself because you chose to. I only guided you, but I will always stand by your side." Quote, her heart swelled with emotion. She realized that fear and doubt no longer held the same power over her. She had faced shadows, both outside and within herself, and emerged stronger. And in him, she had found not just a protector, but a partner, a kindred spirit who understood the depths of her heart. The alpha leaned closer, his forehead resting lightly against hers. "We are bound," he whispered. "Not by chains, not by magic, not by fate alone, but by choice. And I choose you." Tears glimmered in her eyes, not of sorrow, but of relief and joy. "And I choose you," she replied, voice steady, full of conviction. They stood together in the quiet night, the forest stretching endlessly before them, the moon casting silver light on their entwined forms. Wolves watched silently, approving, and the castle behind them seemed at peace for the first time in years. But even in that moment of calm, the world held its mysteries. The stranger had disappeared, yes, but the faint echo of his voice lingered in the wind, a reminder that destiny was never fully complete. And somewhere in the shadows, forces older and darker than the castle itself waited, watching, measuring, preparing for the day when fate would call again. Yet for now, the alpha and his mate stood together, stronger than ever. Their bond had been tested by fear, by power, and by the unknown, and it had endured. Their hearts beat in unison, a promise of loyalty, trust, and love. As the moon dipped toward the horizon, signaling the coming dawn, the alpha lifted the woman into his arms, carrying her toward the castle. Wolves followed in silent procession, a living tribute to the bond they had witnessed. And though challenges would come, though shadows would rise again, they knew one truth above all. The castle gates closed behind them with a soft, final sound. For the first time, the Alpha King and his fated mate were not just protected by power, they were united by choice, trust, and an unbreakable bond. Ending, note, hook. Though the immediate danger had passed, the faint glow of her sigil pulsed once more, hinting that the magic within her and the destiny she shared with the Alpha was only beginning. Somewhere, unseen and patient, the world waited for the next chapter of their story.